time. So in order to create an offer ad, we're going to start by clicking on traffic. That's where we create the offer ad. It's underneath this one. So we'll click on traffic, and then we need to give our campaign a name. And since we're going to be creating one campaign for each day of our launch, let's call it that. So launch campaign day 1, and then we'll hit continue. Now, over on the left-hand side, you'll see they're walking us through the whole creation process of the ad. So the way the hierarchy is on Facebook and under many advertising platforms is you have one single campaign, and then under that campaign, you can have multiple ad sets. And then under those ad sets, you can have ads. So you don't need to really even understand all of that. I'm going to walk you through how to create this, and it'll be pretty simple to do. So now that we've created the campaign, it's time to create our ad set. Now we can also give this a name. So let's say that this is going to be ad set for day 1. Now the most important thing to remember on this is that we need to create an offer. And by default, you'll see offers listed here. It's turned off. We want to turn that on. And as soon as we do that, we now have the ability to create an offer. Next, we'll actually create our offer by clicking on the Create Offer button. But before I do that, you want to make sure that you have the right page selected that you'll be creating the offer on. So hopefully earlier you created a Facebook page for your business like Rich Henderson suggested. So if you did that, that's the page you want to make sure is selected here. Now we'll click Create Offer. And this is where we enter in all of the offer information. Luckily, I have all that stored in my notepad. So let me pull that up right now. So now all that I need to do is copy and paste the information over into the offer. First is the title. Then there are the details for it, or sometimes I consider this the description for it. Now I'm going to skip the end date and end time for now because I want to finish copying everything over first, and we'll come back to that. So there's the storefront URL that goes into the online offer URL section. And the last thing we're going to put in are the terms and conditions. So I have those also over here. There we go. So now everything's copied over from the ad copy that we wrote. The next thing we need to do is tell Facebook when the offer expires. Now you'll notice there's only an end date and an end time. There is no start date and start time. These offers actually go live as soon as you create them, but don't worry about that because even though this offer will technically be active, our ads aren't going to run to the day we want them to, so no one can find these offers. They only exist from a link inside the ad, and people can't really find them until you start running your ads. So all we need to do is figure out the end date and end time. And remember, we want to create one campaign with one offer each day of the launch. So if I want to start our launch, let's say that it's going to be next Monday on June 5th, then I want this first offer to expire that evening on June 5th. And I'll tell you the way we do that. So first, I'm going to go down there and select June 5th as the date we want it to end. And the time, instead of midnight, I like to make mine expire earlier. And here's why. The default is midnight. However, Facebook is going to give all the people who've selected our offer a reminder about an hour before that offer expires that they have an offer in their offer area and that they haven't used it yet. But if it's midnight, a lot of people will be asleep. So I want them to get that notification earlier. And so the time that we found to be the best for this is 9 p.m. Central. And I mentioned Central because I'm selling all across the United States. So at 9 p.m. Central, most people are still awake and they're going to get this notification beforehand. On the East Coast, it's 10 p.m. Central, so most people are still awake there too, and they'll get a notification before they go to bed. And then on the West Coast, it's going to be around 7 p.m. That's a little earlier than I would normally like to have them get this notification, have the offer end. But we're trying to sell across the entire United States, so it's kind of a give and take. I would still be okay with that. So I choose 9 p.m. Central. Of course, you can feel free to experiment with these, but this is just what we're suggesting to put in as the end date and end time for your offer. So this is going to be ending 9 p.m. on the first day of our launch, which is going to be Monday, June 5th. The next thing we need to change is a really cool thing that we found almost by accident. If you look at where people can redeem, we have the options of online, which means that you're just selling the product online like we are, in store if you have a brick and mortar store, or both. Now, even though we're only selling our product online, we're going to click the both, and I'll show you why. Look in the upper right-hand corner and notice that it doesn't have anything in this right-hand side. When I click the both, that's when the in-store email example pops up. We found out that by selecting both, so that we tell people that we're online and in a store, That's what triggers Facebook to send an email to the members who select our offer. That's an awesome thing that we want to take advantage of. So always select both so they get a notification in their Facebook account and they get an email. Now, also down here, we have the option of selecting no promo code, which means that we're simply going to let them get the offer without even entering a coupon. We could use one code, which I'm going to show you how to do later on. But for what we're doing here, we want to do the unique codes. So we select that, and that's where we get the option of uploading the one-time coupon codes that we've already created. We're going to leave it as custom for a custom type code. And then you have to upload this in the format that Facebook asks you to. And it's very simple. You simply select download the CVS template, and it's going to give you a spreadsheet that you can put these codes into. Now, before you click the download CSV template, be sure that you have the both options selected up here and the unique codes option selected here. Otherwise, you get the wrong template and you won't have all the columns that you need. But once you've done that, select the button and download the template. Here's the template that I downloaded, and I'm going to, let's see, open these columns a little bit so you can see what they say. There's actually two columns then where we're going to paste in the promo codes. The first one is for the online promo codes, but we also want to duplicate and enter the exact same promo codes on the in-store promo codes section as well. Luckily, I have my promo codes saved that we created a lesson earlier. So we're going to go over here and pull this up now. There are the promo codes. This is for day one of the launch. So you simply open up that file that we downloaded for your day one launch individual single-use coupon codes, copy those, and we'll go over here and we paste them into the first column and then into the second column, making sure that it's the exact same ones. Now, the only thing we need to do is save this file into a location that we remember, because we're going to be uploading that in just a second. So now we're back to our ad here, and I'm going to upload the file that we just created. I navigate it to where it's at. You select it and hit open. And it just uploaded all 20 codes. So now the next thing we need to do is select how many offers are available. And again, it's 20. That's what we just uploaded. So you enter that here. And then down here, we do have the option of preventing people from sharing this offer, but I actually want people to share this offer, because every time they do that and someone else takes us up on the offer, I don't pay for that click in the ad. It's like a free click of someone getting our offer. So I do not check that box, and I will let them share this offer. Now, when we get to the point where we're showing you how to create the same offer, but with a single group code that everyone shares, that's when I'll actually go out there and unselect that. But for now, I'm going to let people share this offer. Now, the next thing we need to do, we've entered in everything else, is we simply hit create to create this offer, and we'll go back to creating the rest of our ad. So I'm back in my ad set now, and we've created our offer. We can see it right here. And now we're going to scroll down and continue creating the rest of our ad. The first thing we need to do is define the audience as to who we want to see these ads. Now, Facebook is unbelievable, has so many different targeting capabilities that you can really narrow down your audience to just the right people that you want to see buy your product. However, we don't really care about that as much. We're not trying to sell our products for a profit here. There are entire courses on Facebook advertising, but those really show you how to create Facebook ads that are profitable. For these ads, we're giving these off at 75% off. The only thing we care about is that we find people that are interested in our products enough that when they see that 75% off, they want to go out there and get that offer and take us up on it, because that's what's going to move us up in the search rankings. Don't get me wrong. The more they are in our niche and like our product, the better. But I don't want anyone to get overwhelmed to really trying to narrow down their audience to a very minute detail. Now, let's do a little bit of narrowing down, though, to increase the chances that the people that see this ad will want to take us up on our offer. So first, we can narrow this down to the country we want to show the product ad in. I'm in the United States, so that's where I'm going to show it in. If you're in another country, you'll select that country. You can also narrow down the age group. Now, if you know your products are more likely to be bought by younger people, then you can definitely lower the age group, or the same for older people as well. I'm going to leave it at the default of 18 to 65 plus. The same thing is true for genders. If you know women or men buy your product more predominantly than the other, then by all means try that out. But for now, I'm going to leave it open to both. Now, here is where we get into the more detailed targeting. This is where Facebook allows you to filter your audience by different interests that they have. So if you notice up here in the right-hand corner, our potential reach right now is 196 million people, because we really haven't narrowed it down other than saying 18 to 65-year-olds living in the United States. So we're going to narrow this down by starting off to people who like Amazon.com. So we type in Amazon.com, and you'll notice when you enter anything here, it's going to show you a lot of different categories: interests, employers, schools, another employers, more a fashion interest, different countries' interests. But really, the first one we want is the main Amazon.com that is an interest. And we select that. So now we're narrowing down our group to people who only like Amazon.com. And it doesn't mean that they've went out there and selected and said, yes, we like Amazon.com. Facebook knows a lot about their customers, and they know the people who've clicked on Amazon ads in the past. And that's really how they determine people who like Amazon.com. And if you notice, we've went from 196 million people to only 34 million people, still a little bigger than I'd like. So we're going to narrow this down even further. And we do that by selecting the narrow audience, and it's going to create another interest box just like this one. And so since I'm going to be selling a silicone spatula, I want people who are interested in cooking. And so I see cooking and the interest. I'm going to select that. And it's narrowed it down again to 23 million people. And we could continue doing this. And if you know your audience very well, feel free to continue adding in other layers of interest to narrow that down. But I like to make sure I have about 1 million or 2 million people at least who are going to see this ad. Anything less than that, and you're really narrowing down your audience even more, where you're trying to find people to buy your product for a profit. But again, that's not the goal here. So I'm going to go forward with just this. Even though it's 23 million people, that's totally fine for the launch. You can even have more or a little less, but don't stress out about targeting any more than just people who shop on Amazon and the high level category for your product. So let's go down even further. The next thing is called placements. And this is just where your ad's going to show up. Is it going to show up on the desktop? Is it going to show up on a phone or a tablet? Again, I like being really lazy for this, and I know Facebook is really, really good at this. So I'm going to leave it as automatic placements. But again, if you know your audience is young, for example, and they're always on the phones, you might want to try to edit the placements and select mobile phone only. But for me, I'm going to leave it as automatic. Now let's get down and talk about budget and schedule. Now, one of the things that's going to be a little confusing and tricky is syncing up the schedule for our ad with the end time and date for our offer. The two really aren't tied together, and they don't necessarily work very closely together. So we have to just make it work the best way that we can. If you think about it, we know that we want our offer to end at 9 p.m. each day that we're running our launch. So that means we'd want our ads to end at 9 p.m. that day as well. However, Facebook has a limitation that you have to have an ad scheduled to run for at least 24 hours. So with that in mind, we're just going to have our ad start at 9 p.m. the night before we're actually kicking off the launch for that day. And it's totally fine if we get a few sales in that night before. It's going to make everything work much smoother. So I'll show you how to do that. Instead of running an ad continuously starting today, we're going to set a start and end date. And remember, we're starting our launch hypothetically on June the 5th. So I'm going to work backwards. That means that I want the end to be on June the 5th at 9 p.m. So I'm going to change that here. Now you'll see that if I attempt to have the ad campaign start on June the 5th that morning, I'm going to get an error because we need to have the ads that run for 24 hours. Even if I had this run at, let's say, 6:27 a.m., that still is less than 24 hours. So instead, let's go back and let's change this to June 4th, and we'll have it start at 9 p.m. that night. And then there's no problems. It says that our ads are going to run for 1 day. You'll spend no more than $20 for that day. And we can even change that. We're going to change that down to, let's say, $10 for a daily budget. How's that for a launch budget? But trust me, this should work. If it doesn't, we'll adjust and increase the budget. Let's start with a $10 daily budget. We're going to have it kick off the night before our actual launch at 9 p.m. and end at 9 p.m. when our offer is also ending. Now, for our future campaigns, we're going to set them up just 1 day in advance. The next one will start at June 5th at 9 p.m. and end on June 6th, 9 p.m., and so forth until we have all 5 of these set up and scheduled to go. Now let's continue on down here and set up the rest of our campaign. Now, I used to use automatic bidding, and in general, when you're trying to make a profit off your ads, that can work pretty well because Facebook will optimize the clicks for you. However, I found that if I go in and manually select a much lower maximum cost per click, chances are I can usually get a much cheaper click. I'm even going to suggest we all start off with a 40-cent max per click bid. Now, you may not get traffic at this. I'm suggesting this because I found this works for me. If you find after 3 or 4 hours of your campaign running, you're not getting very many clicks, you can increase this, but I would try to save yourself some money. And what happens is you also get more clicks, because when you divide your $10 budget up by 40 cents per click, you get many more people clicking on it. And so that's what I was just starting out, manual and 40 cents per click. Another thing that I like to do is under delivery type, I click more options and I click accelerated. And what happens is that it's going to show your ad much quicker throughout the day, and hopefully you'll get more sales and more clicks even before the day is over. This is just one of the little tricks we found that works. If this doesn't work for you, feel free to go ahead and click standard. And what that means is that Facebook will try to spread out that $10 all throughout the day, but I'd rather get those sales in quicker rather than later. Now, the last thing to do is simply select continue, and we'll actually go out there and create the ad that'll be shown. Now, the first thing I like to do is change the name from the default name over to something that makes more sense, such as our launch day 1 ad. Under the format, we'll leave it as single. Again, there's a lot of really cool things you could do here with carousel ads where you show multiple images in the ad, a video, and even a slideshow, but we're gonna keep this simple because it works. We're gonna use a single image. And then down here, we wanna select our own image for this ad. So we're gonna go out there and navigate to the ad that we had created earlier. So we select that ad and hit open. Now it's going to actually add that image along with the other one that it selected by default. So I'm going to click the X and delete any other images out there so it's just the ad that we have selected. And let's scroll down a little bit. So now we see our ad with a nice graphic there. It's pulled in the title from our offer, 70% off Amazon today with exclusive coupon. You notice we don't have any dates in our ad copy or in our image. That way we can simply make this process easier and cut and paste and copy everything for each ad on each launch day. The only thing that's not over here is the detail text from our offer. So I need to copy that and type it in over here from our notepad. There it is there. It's going to update and show it over here. I fully realize that this text is about resistance and exercise bands, not for the product here, but you get the idea. You would change this to match up to what the product is you're selling. But at that point, all we need to do is place the order. And then we have our ad and our offer created for day 1 of our launch campaign. What you need to do next is create day 2, day 3, day 4, and day 5. And the only thing you'll change is setting the offer date 1 day further and ahead when it's going to expire. And then you also want to make sure that the start and end dates for your ad sets are also 1 day ahead of time. So you have, at the end of the day, at the end of this process, you'll have all 5 campaigns set up, 1 for each day and ready to go well in advance. Congratulations, because you now know how to create every single thing that you need in order to run a successful product launch. With that said,